All right. Hey, everybody. This is how to do homework number 1.4, number 16, otherwise known as the Therms question. All the time I get questions about this particular problem for good reason. It's pretty complicated. But the idea is this family is buying Therms, which is some kind of unit of natural gas. Not really sure what it is, but it doesn't necessarily matter. The idea behind this is if you're not buying that many therms, if you're buying, in this case, it looks like 60 seems to be the splitting point. If you're buying less than 60, your therms are pretty cheap, right? You're not paying much per therm. It's actually mostly delivery cost, right? The delivery cost is expensive when you buy 60 therms or less. But if you're buying more than 60, well, it doesn't really matter. However, if you buy over 60, then the price for therms actually starts to go up. So what you have here is essentially a piecewise equation. Depending on how many therms you buy, you essentially have two different models of pricing. If I buy some amount less than 60, I have to worry about delivery, I have to worry about natural gas, and I have to worry about the monthly service charge. If I'm buying over 50, I have to instead worry about not delivery, but just the natural cost, the natural gas costs, the monthly service charge, and how much it costs for delivering the first 60 therms. So I've kind of got two split models of pricing here. So let's take a look at how to tackle a problem like this. Part C is going to be the tough part, but let's just get through A and B to better understand the numbers we're working with. Okay, so for part A, it's essentially saying, okay, well, what are we going to do, or how much is it going to cost me for 50 therms only? So my cost, I'm just going to write it as cost like this. We'll make it C of X later, but for right now, let's leave it like this. The cost is going to be, all right, first off, I have the 1735 from the monthly service charge. For the privilege of using their, I don't know, natural gas service, I have to pay $17. Okay, next up is going to be the cost for delivery per therm. All right, so my delivery per therm cost is this ugly number right here, which is 0.62376. And now I need to multiply it by the number of therms that I'm buying. In this case, they're asking me about 50, so I'm going to type in 50. So this part right here represents delivery charge. And next up, I have to actually pay for the gas. So that's going to be this number right here, 0.3529. And it's per therm, and I'm buying 50. So it's going to be that. And this number seems to work out to, I'm going to go ahead and throw this into a calculator. That number works out to be 66.1825. But the question tells me that I need to round to, I think, 2 cents. So that would be around $66.18, just as an example. Okay. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and color code this. Red is going to be for my delivery charge. So I'm gonna say, let's do red equals delivery charge or delivery cost. And I'm gonna do blue is equal to natural gas cost. And that's going to be this over here. And why not? I'll highlight it over here. So this is explaining where all of the numbers come from, I guess, for that one. So I guess I'll do green equals flat cost. So this is just the cost for using the service altogether. That's this thing over here. Okay, so let's check this out for part B. Part B is going to have a similar model. I'm going to get rid of the answers here, and I'm going to use similar numbers, but the cost is going to be a little different. Okay, so first off, I still need my 17.35 because I'm still just using the service and I have to pay that. But now I'm buying 300 therms. However, I'm only getting charged for the first 60. So it's like I'm only paying for 60 therms here. So this right here is going to be how much it costs for me to deliver my 300 therms, notice that it looks like I'm just plugging in a 60 here instead of 50, but this is because it doesn't matter how much over 60 I go, right? 60 is essentially my cap, and I've kind of filled it up. So this is how much it's going to cost for 300 therms. Why is it 60? Because I'm not paying for anything over 60 anyway. Okay, however, over here, the natural gas cost is going to be a little bit different because my second number isn't 0. I am still paying for therms over 60. I'm actually just paying at a different rate. So first off, I'm going to buy 60 therms at the cheaper price. The other therms that I'm buying, so remember I'm buying 300 total, so the rest of the therms is going to be 240. The rest of my therms are at this more expensive rate. So it's going to be 0.5728 times the rest of my therms. In other words, 240. Okay, so this is also my natural gas cost. The only catch is that my natural gas cost had to be split into 60 and the rest. My delivery cost was only the 60 and not the rest because there is no rest. The rest is free. So I don't need to worry about splitting up my delivery into 2 different parts because the second part is just going to be free anyways. So it's not contributing any cost. Okay, and we'll take a look at this in another second. So let's figure out how much this costs. So if I throw this into the calculator, this gives me 213.421, or rounded to the nearest cent, that'd be let me put the dollar sign, 213.42. Okay, so now for the hard part, the piecewise function. So let's break this down a little bit. Essentially, whenever I'm buying more than 60 therms, I have this piece of the function that kicks in, this extra price for delivery, right? So I have to break this up into 2 parts based on whether I'm buying 60 or less or more than 60. So let's do that. If I buy 60 therms or less, this is my pricing model. I'm going to do C of X is equal to, actually, so I'm going to call this C1. That's because I'm going to use C again later, and I want to separate the 2 of them. So this is going to be my first pricing model. If I'm buying, that's weird, it doesn't like the word therms, whatever. So my first pricing model is going to be 17.35. That's my flat cost, plus delivery 0.62375 X. X is going to represent the amount of therms that I'm buying. So right here, this is my delivery cost. And now I have some price for the actual amount of gas that I'm buying. So that pricing model is going to be 0.3529X. So real quick, just to color code all these pieces, this is the delivery cost. This is the price for the gas itself. And this is the price flat, just for using the service. Okay. So real quick, I've got some like terms here. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify this real quick. I'm going to be able to add together this red and blue piece. And if I do that, I'm going to get, let's see. So if I add these 2 things together, I'm going to get 0.97665X. And I'm going to remove the color coding on this now because it's no longer being useful. So if I really, and I'll copy this. Whoops. So when I combine like terms, I'm left with this. This would be my answer for the first part if I'm buying 60 or less. Let's see. I want to enter this down. Yeah, why not? We'll do that. If I buy more than 60 therms, I have a separate pricing model. So if I'm buying more than 60 therms, I'm going to start off by copy pasting this, because it's pretty similar. Still have the flat cost. Although my price for delivery is just going to be the price for delivering only 60. So in this case, I'm definitely buying more than 60 therms. So essentially my delivery price is capped out. This is the most that it's going to cost me for delivery because everything after 60 is free. Okay, and then remember how I was saying over here, I need to use the delivery charge for the rest, right? So the rest of my numbers over here, that's this part that I'm going to add at the very end. So first off, let's look at this guy. Again, because I'm definitely buying more than 60 therms in this case, essentially I've bought out all of the cheap therms. I can only buy 60 therms at this cheaper value. And I'm buying more than 60, so this is capped out. I've bought all the cheap therms. And next up, the rest of the therms that I want to buy are expensive. So the way that I write, quote unquote, the rest of the therms, it's going to be whatever I want to buy minus the 60 that I bought at the cheaper rate. That means like, so this expression right here represents the rest of the therms. And you'll notice that checks out over here. I was buying 300 and that splits off into 60 and 240. If I did 300 minus 60, that does give me 240. So this lines up with what we figured out before. I'm basically splitting up the amount of therms I want to buy into the first 60 and then the rest of them, like this. Okay, and I'll recap this sort of at the end. So this right here is my pricing model if I'm buying more than 60. If I'm buying more than 60, I have the cost for using the service. I have the delivery cost, which is effectively like maxed out, right? Anything more than 60 doesn't cost me extra. And then I have to buy the actual gas part. And the actual gas part is split up into 60 therms, which are cheaper, and then the rest of them, which are more expensive. Okay, but now we can simplify this just the same way that I simplified this guy up here. I've got some like terms. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and compute these things. So this guy right here, that is going to be, let's see, typing this into a calculator on another screen. So this red guy right here is 37.425. So essentially, at most, for delivering all these therms, it's only $37.43 roughly to deliver those therms. Over here, I'm going to do this next one, which is actually, let me copy this. So my price for the 60 cheap therms is 21.174. And now what I want to do here is distribute this number inside the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some distribution lines. And I'm going to do this in the next line. Okay. So this one gets multiplied to the x, and it gets multiplied to the 60 over here. And now I don't need the parentheses anymore. Now I just need to compute this part over here. So I need to figure out what 0.5728 is times 60. And when I do that, this number right here comes out to 34.38. No, sorry, 368. Woof. Okay, so I still have some more like terms. This is just a number. This is just a number. This is just a number. And this guy's just a number. So when I add together all of the constants, I'm going to get, real quick, I'm just going to copy paste this into a calculator and see what I get. All right, so when I add together all of those constants, add and subtract, note there's their minus sign right there, 41.581. And then I can't do anything with this because that portion has an X in it. So it's not a like term. It doesn't combine with everything else. But essentially what I did was I did this, plus this, and minus this as well. So all of that combined to make this 41.58 number. Okay, so here are my two different pricing models. I use this model when I have 60 or less therms. I use this model when I'm buying more than 60 therms. This one gives me the price for, so both of these combined give me the price for anything. So the way that you would write this as a piecewise function, you would open, so do C of X, you would open up your parentheses, you would type in this equation over here. That's my top one. And what I'm going to put for my condition is 0 is less than or equal to X is less than or equal to 60. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see how, actually pulled up. I have the screenshot over here. Yeah, so it puts it in for you, some of it. Let me see. Yeah, so here's the screenshot that I grabbed for how it wants you to type in the answers, which looks like this. So the 0 is already there for you. This blank should be, for me, it's 60. The numbers are randomized. I don't know what it is for you. But then this equation goes over here, and I'm going to say this has to be for X greater than 60. And turn it so it's lined up. So two separate pricing models. I do want to point out that this is correct for the bottom equation, and this is this is correct for the top equation. However, if I typed that into Pearson, I would be wrong. Only because it says simplify your answers, and it doesn't detect that this is simplified because it's not. So half the battle in this question is just combining together a whole bunch of ugly decimals so that way you can get an answer for Pearson. Okay, and for part D, it says graph the function found in part C. I'm going to be honest, you're just going to want to use a graphing calculator for this. So either use Desmos, you can use a handheld graphing calculator, whatever you have available works. But just carefully type this into your functions, and there will be a multiple choice answer that matches that. Okay, so this is how to answer the Therms question. Please let me know either in the comments or you can email me or wherever. Contact me if this doesn't make any sense, because this part is easily the most confusing to understand, why we have these two separate pricing models and where these numbers come from. I did my best to explain it, but if something's unclear, just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to clear it up.